Lamar, we'll turn it over to you for facilitating the next part of this discussion.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. It's almost spring. We're almost going to go out. Next time I see you, you're going to be like in your offices or something. It's scary. Um, uh, Thank you to Peter Guzman from Washington State for getting up a lot earlier on the West Coast. Peter is a policy associate at the Washington State Board for Community and Technical Colleges, which oversees the whole state system. And what we're here to talk about are Washington State's, they call them centers of excellence. And they've been around for quite a long time, nearly 20 years, I think. Peter will tell us more. They're a great model. They're kind of a legendary model. A lot of people talk about them. I didn't really understand them until I had my first conversation with Peter last week, I guess it was. But Peter will explain them to us. It's interesting. It is and it isn't. I mean, I'll say this. It is and it isn't interesting for CUNY in the sense of I was kind of thinking, well, CUNY, it's many campuses in one location. Maybe these centers of excellence have something to teach us. It turns out the Washington Centers of Excellence, they're spread across a whole state, and I'm not sure they exactly, I mean, we'll see what CUNY problems they do and don't solve, but it is an attempt to create something unified out of many. And so I think that's of interest in the CUNY context. So Peter, thanks for being here. Maybe we should start by explaining what the centers of excellence are not, because my mistaken understanding as I came out of this CUNY context was that all the healthcare programs would be in one campus and everyone would go to that one campus. That's not what it is, correct?
Correct. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me here this morning. Yes, our centers of excellence have been around since 2005. And what they're not, which I think some of our elected officials, policymakers mistake that what we are is they think we're training centers, like a manufacturing center or center of agricultural training center. We are not. We are more think tanks, brokers, stakeholders that come together under a sector approach. And so really what drove the origination of the centers of excellence was really to assist our economic activity and development in the state of Washington. I think we in Washington State, so I hear, tend to be progressive with ideas, and we're not afraid to take risk and be innovative because we are in the Northwest, and we can hide in the Pacific rainforest and just be very creative. But as you know, we have various sector industries that of Boeing, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Costco. I mean, if you start to look at the industry in Washington State, it is pretty diverse. And when I was talking to Tamar, I mean, we also have really two Washington states. We have kind of the I-5 corridor on the west side where you have Microsoft, Amazon, and then you have Eastern Washington State, which is in many respects is very rural. There have been attempts by Eastern Washingtonians to secede from the state. I'm sure there's other calls in other states because it's for the most part, it's very agrarian. You've heard of Washington State apples, right? I mean, we have a huge agricultural industry. Cherries, we are the leader in producing hops, which you need for beer, right? And if you don't like to drink beer. So very diverse sectors, very diverse
so the
economies.
Centers of excellence, Peter, let's cut to the chase
Sure.
of that. There's 11 of them, and that connects to your industries, right?
Sure. So we have 11 sectors that really were initially created in 3 sectors, mainly manufacturing because of Boeing, aerospace, and I believe we had construction and possibly Homeland Security, emergency management. And they have evolved to really support kind of the natural evolution of industries that need to be supported in our state. And so right now, you mentioned 11. If I can just go quickly through them, I think I provided you with some information.
Sure.
We have aerospace advanced manufacturing, obviously Boeing and the work that's related to that. We have agricultural, and then we added natural resources because of fire science. And with global warming, we've had to shift to managing our forests. And as past President Trump said, raking our forests. It's a lot more than that, the leaves, but there's a whole management involved in that. We have allied health, obviously. We have education, pedagogy, right? We need more educators, and we're looking in paraeducation, everything from that all the way to tenured certified teacher. We also have clean energy, obviously, right? Because of our kind of hopefully less reliance on fossil fuels. We have construction, we have global trade, supply chain, and management. One thing about global trade, supply chain, and management, we are the most trade dependent state in our nation. I know there's a lot of firsts, and I'm like, wow. Well, we have the Pacific Northwest, our ports. We have deep ports in Seattle and Tacoma, Washington, right? And so we have a lot of commerce coming through there, and then the rail, and then trucks, right? So all the work involved in that. Homeland security, emergency management, with everything that's happening with cyber, and just trying to protect our people, to protect our sectors. That is a big industry that has flourished. Obviously, IT, information technology, computing. Marine manufacturing technology, the Puget Sound. If any of you have ever been to the Pacific Northwest, we have just inlets galore, right? And we have a huge maritime industry, which I think we forgot and we need to bring back. And then semiconductors and electronics manufacturing. That is the latest one that's invented specifically for a sector in Vancouver, Washington, which borders Oregon. So those are the 11 sectors.
Okay, so Peter, let's get to, and everyone in the call knows I'm a really interfering talk show host, so it's not personal. But
that's fine.
Let's get to like how they connect to what they do for the colleges. So, and first, let me just clarify. You said they were started for economic development, but they are a product of the community college system, right? They're not.
They are.
Yeah. So how do they connect to the colleges, and how do they serve the colleges?
Yeah, so per statute, our centers of excellence are community colleges, okay? Which means
they're housed out.
They're housed out, and the funding goes to a host college to support that program. So, for instance, we have the Allied Health Center of Excellence, which is in Yakima, Washington, which is Eastern Washington State. It's hosted there, but it supports the entire state of Washington, anything to do with allied health, medical assistant up to registered nurse, right? And the way they facilitate and broker their relationships is that they are that conduit, that connective tissue between the college, okay, and the greater educational institution, which includes our university systems, our workforce development centers, or WIOA, as they're known as, and industry and business, right? Providence, Multicare, Kaiser, they connect with them to determine collectively what are your skill set needs, what are your demands, and how do we bridge that gap? And we rely on labor market information to let us know what that is validated for.
So I'm the head of the healthcare Center of Excellence. I'm going to have a good labor market information service. I'm going to have a bunch of employers I connect with regularly. Let's go on everybody he's going to know on the side of that's not the college, and then we'll come to how he connects with the college and how colleges and how he helps them. So labor market information, employers. Am I going to meet with my employers like all the time? What kind of relationships are they?
Well, there's different relationships that occur. All of our centers of excellence have advisory boards. Obviously, we have advisory boards on our campuses. These are specifically center of excellence advisory boards. Those stakeholders and professionals for that particular sector. Okay, so allied health, you'd have hospitals, clinics, everything that's involved in allied health. And then you have workforce professionals like governmental agencies, WIOA agencies, and then our colleges You can have a workforce dean. I mean, depending on who needs to be at the table, they establish what the need is for that particular sector. They participate in developing. The centers have an annual work plan. These are the things we're going to work on for the year based on demand. And every 2 years, we have a site visit to confirm how are they doing. And I meet usually with the advisory board members, say, hey, how's it going? What is your greatest training need? So that type of information and collaboration is very kind of timely, and it provides us with information that we can then translate into curriculum, into supporting our degree
So
program.
talk about how that works. So, okay, so now we've discovered that there's a burning need for EMTs in Washington State. What are we going to do with that? And how are the colleges, how are you going to help the colleges respond? And how are you going to make the colleges respond?
Now you're getting into something a little more challenging here. Okay, because we have tenured faculty that don't like to be told, or college presidents. So what we tend to do is once there's a need, we hear from Kaiser Permanente, hey, we need more EMTs. We do a scan of our programs, and then hopefully we get information that shows how many are we talking about here, because the colleges need
the system is producing.
How many is the system producing? And that's everything. I mean, you can go on LinkedIn and show all the advertised jobs to Shimura, to whatever it is. And so we get good LMI information, and then we determine what is the need in our system, what is the capacity, and where do we need to grow. And then it comes down to resources. What type of resources are we going to need to stand up more programs? Do we have to start one, or do we just need funding to be able to expand? We also have, as I was talking to Tamar, in terms of resources, all of our colleges, just like your system, receives funding from, we receive funds from the legislature. We put it out to the colleges depending on their community need, right? Now, from them, we have provisos, earmarks that go for dedicated amounts. We also have pots of money that can be used depending on the need. Like we have worker retraining dollars, $39 million in our state for unemployed, underemployed workers that we put out to our colleges based on an application, competitive bid. You tell me which programs in your system you will need these dollars for based on need, right? We also put some funding out to private career schools, a smaller percentage, 10% of that 39 million will go to private, because we have a lot of private career schools that can be a lot more flexible and agile than us having to do a DACOM, or takes us a year to get a program out the door.
The community college system funds non-community colleges?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, private career schools, like a trucking school, CDL. We still need CDL drivers, right? With an environmental certification. Boom, it costs $4,500 for a program private to do that. So we have those funds. Yes.
Well, let's go back to, so we figured out we need EMTs. Did we figure out, is the point about the scan to figure, I mean, we want to get to the really nitty gritty of how the dollars get spent across the campuses. Sure. Now that you've identified this need, does the need tell us, well, we need them on the eastern part of the state, but not the western part of the state? And then the money gets funneled that way, or not necessarily?
Well, the need will tell us a statewide projection of where the need is.
Statewide.
Yeah, depending on the employers, because that's the one thing is, who needs the employees and where can we more readily prepare them, whether it's an online setting or not,
But do they then bid? So do the colleges then bid for, like, I want to be the one that expands my EMT program, or how do they?
Well, that's really
the hard part, right? The sibling.
That is. So what we have is we have what's called program approval review process. So any program that's going to be more than 15 credits, really you have to provide us with your information in terms of expansion, right? Because we do have competition, and we maintain that. And if two colleges agree, yeah, we will share the EMT training, then we'll allow them. Otherwise, we actually have to bring them into court and have them decide that. But
wait, bring them to court?
Yes, we have. Well, especially with like our associates or BAS programs. If one of your neighbor colleges has the same program that can meet the demand in that geographic area, why stand up another one?
Oh wow! So will you stop them if they come to you and say, Oh, so how do you
Yes.
stop them? How do you what's the lever or the leverage?
We facilitate a meeting between the two colleges, and we make render a judgment on what we think. We either allow them or we not, but it has to be based on labor market information, demand, and what we would like for them to do is collaborate, but that
Right.
doesn't always happen. So really, once we
Well,
identify
tell us a
that,
story. Tell us, this is, I mean, this is the nub of it. Tell us a story of a sibling rivalry, if you will. You can mask the players, but like
well,
how it played out.
well, we have two colleges that wanted to develop a BAS in fire science. Okay, so we have firefighters, and it's an apprenticeship, and it's an associate's, which is great. The fire marshals had a need for leadership training, so the colleges decided, hey, and we already had one college that had a BAS in fire science. And there was a neighboring college that said, hey, we would like to stand up a fire science management BAS. And they had to come to court. And right now we've instructed them to go back and reach some sort of agreement in terms of who's going to do the BAS. Why? And they're in the same county.
So what happens if you, so court is a metaphor, right? You mean come to
Yes.
you, come to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but so they come to you, your leverage is that you won't, if it's not approved, they don't get funding for it. Is that the point?
Well, they won't get funding, and they won't get that BAS authority. They won't be able to render a BAS because we have to approve it. We are the approving entity for the BAS.
Right, and that's okay. I know some people are chafing to answer questions. Sunil, we'll get to you in just a second. Let me just see if I can get to the bottom of this, because this does seem like the key thing. So, I mean, I don't know if that would, and you have that authority by mandate, or you have it by legal mandate, or you have it by the accreditors? Like, what gives you the authority to say, no, you can't offer that course?
I'm not sure about the statute or the legal requirement.
But
I can get back to you on that. It works. Yeah, we have been granted that authority by our state board, but I'm not sure. I'm sure somewhere, yeah, because BASs are managed by the state of Washington. The 4 years had to allow us to do BASs, right? They don't want us doing 4 years.
I get. The BASs are unique. Yeah. And so do the colleges in the end, I mean, obviously they don't like it in the moment when they're told you can't start a program, but do they feel that it benefits them eventually because they have, for some reason? I mean, I can imagine why, but I'll let you answer. Or do the colleges just chafe at it?
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, hopefully at the end of the day, there's a resolution where they agree to play together in the sand. But we do have some of our colleges, if they're geographically distanced enough, we allow them to have similar programs because of that geographic need in that area. Spokane, Washington has their needs different from Seattle, Washington. Quality of life, ability to pay, whatever. But in terms of the funding, which I didn't mention that, the funding can come in many different ways. So if you have an existing program and you want to expand, then obviously you want to come to the state board or the legislature or through a grant that we also have workforce education grant dollars that we bid every year, and they can compete for those dollars. That's how they get additional funds. Our legislature is very enamored with workforce development. We have a program called Career Connect Washington, which our governor started, which is more of a youth focus, more work-based learning. And the legislature has funded grants, K through 12 higher ed, for work-based learning, apprenticeship type programs, and everything in between. So there are pots of money that they could apply for in standing up a new program, because if you're going to stand up a new program, it costs money.
Of course.
Right? Yeah, we don't have additional monies to provide you additional dollars to standing up a Prof TAP program unless you get a big chunk of money. And so we try kind of a multifaceted process of, here's a dedicated pot of money that comes from the ledge or some funded model to very short-term training dollars from workforce education grant dollars that we provide. We have short-term term training dollars with our job skills program and our customized training, which are just short-term incumbent worker training, and they tend to be more on the non-credit side. That's another issue we have here is funding non-credit that they want to survive in a credit-bearing world.
Well, everyone you're talking to is from the non-credit side.
Okay.
So don't say anything bad about the non-credit side. We like
Oh, I'm not.
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
I staff are continuing that, folks.
People are clamoring to get into the conversation. I know Sunil has a question. It looks like Wei Yin has a question. Why don't you guys, because I could keep going and I'm not sure we're at the bottom of what I'm getting at yet, but I'm conscious that people are waiting. Sunil, why don't you put your question in?
Hi, Peter. Really, really informative. Thank you so much for the discussion this morning. I was very curious about the Invista Performance Solutions model that was started in 2010 between the 4 community colleges in Washington State. It was Tacoma Community College, Pierce, Puyallup, Pierce College, Fort, and then Clover Park. I think the president of Tacoma at the time combined their corporate training and their continuing education tuition divisions and created this third entity among the 4 schools to go after industry. And they had accumulated some significant contracts like Keurig, Amazon, Iconic, and the like. Is that coordinated by your area at the Central Division, or is that something that's different?
That's something that's different. And I wasn't around in 2010, but I worked in Pierce County where Tacoma Community College is situated. I think that program, if I understand your question, is really a program. It's now called Invista. It's specifically that contract training service provider for 4 colleges in Pierce County. Okay, and what they do is they operate on behalf of the 4 community colleges to do the contract training. They negotiate the contracts, they bring in the work, and they perform on behalf of the 4 colleges. I think that's what the model is that you're talking about. It used to be called, I think, the Pierce County Partnership. Yeah, and now it's called Invista. And yeah, with our job skills program, with short-term contract training, we are on a speed dial relationship with them. And because really they're out there trying to find out what the business needs are, needs assessment with them. And they bring it on the continuing ed side of the house because on the credit side, it just doesn't work there. Right. They may just need a 4-week training, some stackable certs, incumbent worker training for the most part is what they do. And the businesses are very satisfied. So I think that's the model. It's working here. And we have 2 programs in our state, job skills program, which is funded at $5.4 million. And our customized training program at $340,000. The ledge is hopefully going to give us some more money this year to serve that need, that niche of just quick, flexible, nimble training out the door. And for other businesses that need more long-term associates or degree programs, we have a place for them to go.
But
the key is,
what's interesting is that it's a state where there's all these different webs, like overlapping webs. Like you have the web that's the centers of excellence. Then you have the webs that the colleges are forming of their own. There's all this cross-pollination and cooperation in a big state. I mean, we're not talking about a subway ride. We're talking about, long distances. And what's also interesting is the way the pots of money, you have these sort of, I mean, it seems to me like the flexible pots of money that you have to hand out really help with this, because it's like, that's the incentive for the people to play well. So that it's not just the standard FTE and the whatever, it doesn't matter what you do. You have these grants and flexible pots of money that sound to me like they drive these webs. Is that a fair description?
That is. They're very flexible. I mean, we have traditional funding that goes to credit-bearing courses, obviously, but we have the flexibility for non-credit courses to thrive. They're self-resourced, as you know, and there's a movement here, and maybe there is in your neck of the woods, of trying to get some value for non-credit courses and to be able to resource that and have it, like the North Carolina model, which has a 3-tiered system. We are discussing that. We have a lot of pushback from our tenured faculty and the unions. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I see value because I do staff for continuing ed folks. They are energized. They are ready to, be at the grown-up table at Thanksgiving. They're tired of being off on the side, and they have value. I see that. But when you're academic focused in your institution, as you know, we have academic transfer, workforce ed, basic education, and con ed. Con ed is always the one that gets the less attention, and I think their day has come.
The people on this call know all about this. You're talking about their lives.
Oh.
Wei-Yin, did you have a question?
Yes, so I'm wondering that, if I am interested in fire science and, another county, how do you, do I have to come to that school particularly, how do you solve that geographically confined kind of issue for the students?
Well, what we try to have our colleges do is partner, have a conversation about your program, your needs, your geographic area. And then obviously we are student focused. What is going to be a program that's going to meet the student right where they're at? Obviously, because of COVID, we've become very proficient at online training, but you have to have some hands-on training as well. So we try to develop programs that will provide funding for our students. In our state, 38% of our students require need-based financial aid, right? We're very diverse. So we want to ensure that our students are able to afford whatever instruction, whatever modality, and in whatever occupation. And so if a college is thinking of expanding or including a program, we encourage them to collaborate. We're having this discussion more and more so right now because of registered apprenticeship. We have a long history of registered apprenticeship, mainly in construction trades, right? Building construction trades. I know in New York, heavily union as we are here. I think you're more than we are. But we're venturing into like allied health, right? Which has not been traditionally apprenticeable occupations. And there was a battle in terms of profession, practicum, and a trade skill, almost like a division, like you blue collar workers stay over there, we'll keep the white collar workers. So those are conversations we want our colleges to talk with one another in terms of what does that mean if you're going to like substance abuse disorder professional, right? That is the big thing right now, right? Behavioral health, chemical dependency. They want to make that into an apprenticeship. Okay, there's a battle in our state over that. Colleges fighting against each other over that.
But I mean, to go back to I think what Wei-Yin is getting at is, so if the Center of Excellence decides we need, and this was sort of my question too, the Center of Excellence decides we need EMTs all over the state, they're not going to say only one college can do it. They're going to share that labor market information. They're going to share the employers, right? They're going to say Kaiser Permanente, whoever it is, you go talk to Yakima and you go talk to wherever, Bellevue, I'm just making this up, and help them both start programs, right? Like it's not always zero-sum game. It's often shared depending on where the labor market need is. Is that correct?
That's correct. And our centers of excellence are ones that broker those conversations. As a matter of fact, our center director, Dan Ferguson, is in the midst of these conversations to almost play referee, but just to say, hey, this is the landscape, this is our demand, this is the gap. And how do we meet the needs of the students that can be employed by the businesses? That is really what the centers do. They are brokers. You've heard of communities of practice. They're engaged in a lot of communities of practice, especially due to COVID, to broker these conversations depending on what the conversation and what the need is. In many respects, that's what they are. They are communities of practice for whatever issue comes before them.
What does that mean exactly? What does that mean?
Well, communities of practice, I don't know how many of you heard of those, but they're organization of various groups that come together under a common interest. Okay, like it could be OER, open educational resources for their particular sector. They host meetings under that one specific issue to come up with some sort of resolution.
Like
So
shared,
it's
just shared practices.
shared practices, collective impact.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean,
So it's not only handing out the employers, so to speak, and the programs. It's also helping support with shared practice with communities.
exactly. Yeah, because sometimes you don't know what you need, you just know there's a problem. So we help you kind of navigate the waters and try to come to a common understanding what the need is. Sometimes an employer may say, hey, we have a skilled workforce shortage, and actually it might be an HR problem. You don't pay them enough, you don't provide them business or benefits. So try to layer back the onion to see what is your need. Is it skills training? Is it lack of people entering? Is it into our workforce? Is it marketing? Sometimes it is just marketing. Nobody knows who we are. Like we met with our insurance agents. It's like, who wants to be a claims adjuster? Hopefully nobody's a claims adjuster here at one time. But so it just depends on what the problem is. And our centers of excellence, because they are colleges, advocate on behalf of the college and industry.
Right.
Okay, not one or the other.
Right.
And then they determine resources, gaps. LMI is something we are pushing heavily with all of them to get good labor market information, do that needs assessment, get the parties together, and then from there you can determine goals and strategies to address that issue.
I mean, I think from the point, what I'm trying to, I'm putting I'm channeling the people in the room who are at colleges, who might say, well, this sounds like it's good for the greater good of the state, but is it really going to be for the greater good of my college? Maybe it was better when I could sort of fight for my own share. Maybe I don't want the court deciding on my share. And so, I mean, is there a way where in the end it does come back to be good for the colleges and the colleges are happy, they get more in the end? I mean, I'm sure they don't like it at some points when you say you can't start the EMT program. But do they like it later because they feel like that's the trade-off of getting connected to the employers and getting the best practices and getting the, like what's the payoff for the college?
Well, you would think that that's kind of for the greater good, what ends up happening at the very end. But I can tell you some college presidents aren't happy when we tell them that they can't stand up a new program. What we're doing a lot right now is we are educating our college presidents and our deans and directors about what centers of excellence are, because oftentimes they don't know what they are either.
Oh, wow.
Because of turnover, we have new presidents. And as a matter of fact, this afternoon, we're having a conversation with our centers of excellence and our subcommittee of our Council of Presidents to talk about centers of excellence, because their role in terms of dictating policy for our system has rubbed some college presidents the wrong way.
I'm
like,
sure
hey, that is my job. And if you're a college, you're hosted on my campus, so I get to tell you what to do. No, they are not there to dictate. They're not their staff, even though they are, right? This is the conundrum here. The centers of excellence are there as a statewide resource for all of the colleges in that particular sector, allied health, okay? And so the presidents were trying to get them to understand that what's good for the greater good is good for you.
Yeah.
But right now they're counting dollars and cents, right?
Well, of course.
Low enrollment.
Yeah.
The Ledge is still giving us money. They're asking, what'd you do with the money we gave you? Why do you want more money?
Yeah.
Right.
So Wei is asking a good question that's relevant to this. How is the Center of Excellence organized? I mean, who are they? So like, because who gives them, you appoint them, who are they?
Yeah, so who are they? Okay, they were created by statute, and we had partnership of business, labor, government agencies, and the state board got together, and we put out a bid for those colleges to be able to bid on whatever center of excellence. So we receive the funding from the Ledge. We have an annual budget of roughly $2.5 million
for 11 centers.
For 11 centers. And so I actually manage the funds. They provide me, and it's it's a tripartite relationship, right? So we are the fiscal, the compliance entity. They're hosted at a college. They report to their college president or dean, and they have an advisory board. But they have to listen to me because I can cut the spigot, right? So that's the way they were created. And in terms of governance, it's based on whatever activity plan that they have to provide in terms of performance. And it's something we're having conversations this afternoon to clarify that operational role, because it's not really articulated how that relationship works. Like I said, some college presidents think the centers of excellence are theirs, they work for them. Others know it's a system partnership, right? So
it sounds like, I mean, in a funny way for CUNY, I think this might be reassuring. They're just like, there's a joke about, it's a family restaurant. There are people quarreling at every table. It's like you're a decentralized system with challenges of centralization and decentralization, and so is CUNY. And I think CUNY struggles with it. But it's interesting to hear that that's a common problem, and to hear how somebody else solves it. I think we have time for one more question. Weigh in, and Sunila both asked a bunch of questions. Anybody else want to weigh in with a question? It's super interesting, Peter, and I feel like I'm only just beginning to understand it in a weird way. I want to learn more.
I got a question.
Hi, Raymond. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah. Just want to get an understanding of where the continuing education departments fit into the pipeline in terms of the Center for Excellence will sort of determine what school is going to get funding for a particular program, say the EMT, then the money goes to the school, and then the school gives the money to, say, continuing ed to do the program certifying the EMTs.
Really good question. How the money trickles down.
Where do we fit on the, where do we fit on the tree?
Yeah.
I can tell you it works differently on every host campus, but for the most part, each CE program on our colleges, they're self-support, okay? And they get funding from their host college for CE. In terms of funding as it comes in, it mainly comes in through these competitive grants or job skills program, customized training program, or worker retraining programs. They actually are in the business of applying for those dollars. The center
that could go directly to the continuing ed department. Doesn't have to go through the college. So that's really important to these people, like everyone on this call, like that the money doesn't have to come through their credit side.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. It's strictly on the non-credit side, and all the centers of excellence really do in that context is they explain the landscape in terms of the need for short-term non-credit training in a credit-bearing world, and they basically confirm that for EMT to get to a firefighter, whatever it is, that pathway, here's where you start. It's non-credit, and it's because we have another program called Guided Pathways, which is just kind of work-based pathways in our system, very intentional. If you map it out as a center of excellence, then it makes sense to be able to receive funding for that short-term EMT.
So in a way, they're also your lobbyists. They're the ones who are kind of saying we have this need. So that's where colleges might like them. I mean, they're sort of getting more money. They're growing the pie as opposed to just cutting up the pie.
Correct. Yeah. Based on need. Yeah.
So here's the one last question from Joan. Do the continuing ed divisions own the company client, no matter what the need, or can multiple CEs have relationships with the same company? I think the answer is it depends on the geographic need. But why don't you tell us?
Multiple CEs can work for that business. As a matter of fact, a lot of our colleges partner on continuing ed projects. Because we have a college that may be good in the administration and in terms of leadership training. Another college may be better in lean training or whatever that particular course that is needed to provide that. So yeah, I mean, we're pretty laissez-faire when it comes to the non-credit side. You can be a lot more innovative.
Oh, yeah.
and
So it turns out Joan is not asking about non-credit. She's asking about the centers of excellence. But Joan, each center of excellence is its own field. So Amazon, if Amazon was doing healthcare and whatever Amazon does,
Mhm.
sure, they could be partners. But it's the centers of excellence are their own fields, and then they share the employers with the campuses.
Correct, correct. And if I can go even further than that is because of the converging of technology, a lot of our centers are working collaboratively now. Like IT is working with agriculture and global trade and logistics, because trucking and agriculture and cyber, our centers of excellence are all working together, where when they first were created, they were just siloed programs. Okay, now you have to work together, right? All things are technologically related now, and in one sense, and it's bringing them all together in sharing employers, in sharing center information and collaboration.
Sharing employers, that's like magic word, like sharing employers. I want to see that in practice. It's like children, again, sharing toys.
Yeah.
Peter, this is super helpful. I think we could keep on asking you questions, but maybe we'll have you back, or we'll
Absolutely.
figure out some ways to get deeper. Last word for the good of the order.
Well, I appreciate the fact that we're having this discussion nationally. I think in terms of the continuing education non-credit side, if we could figure out a way how that can be embedded, appreciated within our kind of academic system of pedagogy, I think we're going to be a lot better served, because our students really we can meet them at that short-term non-credit side, and our employers want that, and eventually we can bring them into the longer degree-seeking pathways.
North
So,
Carolina tiered funding, go for it.
yes,
How can we help?
well, we're going to be there. I think we're going to need some machetes, clear the brush. I'm Mexican American, so I know how to use a machete. So that's how we have to do it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was great to have you.
Okay, and if you have any questions, definitely send them to me through Tamar. I know there were some more questions in the chat. And I think you have my email information. If you
I'll
want to
make sure
shoot me an
everyone
email.
has it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks for getting up. Thanks for a really
Thank
helpful
you.
presentation.
Okay. Thank you all.
Great, thank you.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Same
All
to
right.
you.
Bye.